Good afternoon and welcome to Beholden To Truth. It is your humble host Joshua here with you for another one of our very special happy hour sessions, sitting outside of the gym, drinking our pre-workout, getting caffeinated, getting our mind right. Got to go take care of our responsibilities. We're responsible people and we have a lot of responsibilities, don't we? We got to be physically healthy, spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, astute as to what's going on around us. So I hope you guys are ready for another one of these productive sessions where we're going to go knock out all of these things. I hope you are too. I say we as if I just assume you guys are doing all the things, taking care of your physical health, tuning into this content and others, getting educated on the political landscape, and staying in tune with our true leader, Jesus Christ. I assume you're doing all of those things, right? So anyway, as usual, sipping the pre-workout. Got ourselves probably a chest day actually, which I'm really looking forward to. Probably the single most important announcement I have to make is my body fat level currently. I got my body fat check 2 days ago and we're hanging out at 8.7%. I'll put the report card on the screen. I don't make these things up, guys. I don't just pull numbers out of the sky. I don't like look at the mirror and say, I'm probably 8% body fat. I actually get checked. Usually every few months. During summertime, I often make it as frequent as once a month just to get the empirical evidence of the body composition changing. Because I've been doing it so long, the mirror check is actually pretty accurate for me. And actually what ends up happening is your body becomes a kind of roadmap where you just know, looking at yourself, where your fat stores are, how vascular you are, and your weight. You remember last time I looked roughly like this, assuming you've already maxed out your muscular capabilities. Last time I looked roughly like this, my veins were this visible. I remember that my reading was 10%, 12%, 8%, whatever. And so usually I can just visually guess based on what I see in the mirror what my body fat is within literally a 1 to 2% margin of error. I think I told you guys, or I posted on Instagram recently, I was like, here's what life at 8 or 9% body fat looks like. Lo and behold, I go get my official report card run, 8.7% body fat. So your boy's been doing this for 11 years, okay? So just trust me, I know what I'm doing. This is why I have the credentials to go and create an entire supplement line, my anti-zog nutritional supplement line. Pre-workouts, creatine, multivitamin, fish oil, melatonin to get your sleep right. I got the credentials, as I said, the life experience. I know what I'm doing. Just trust me. And trust me when I say it's worth it. It's a lot more than visually changing your body. I've talked 100 zillion times on this platform about the fitness lifestyle, transforming your physique. It probably has 10 to 20% to do with liking who you see in the mirror from a visual perspective more than you used to. That's a nice benefit. We all, like to see something that we like in the mirror and feel proud of ourselves, not in a sinful way, but remembering that you've invested a lot of intentional effort, you've made a lot of sacrifices, you've done things that are difficult that other people are not willing to do, restricting your diet, intentional cardio, intentional lifting, minimizing some of the other extracurricular activities, the drinking, partying, staying up into the middle of the night instead of prioritizing your sleep. When you see that visual affirmation that all of that was worth it, that's a nice thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going and getting a nice physique update after chest day, the single best day of the week. Anyways, that's enough rambling about fitness. I'm actually in a great mood because last night was one of the best nights I've had in a very long time. I mean, I didn't plan this. I was just hanging out, but God just decided to pour out blessings on my life last night. In particular, in support of this platform and our mutual mission of America First, protecting the Christian fabric of this nation, the white majority of this nation, and all of Europa, awareing people to the Jewish influence. Lord knows it has been a long battle. It's a war, actually. It's not a battle. There's many battles within a war. And we've been winning battles, losing battles, being drug along in this war for our entire lives. especially with a heightened sense of awareness once you get woken up. You watch Europa, Greatest Story Never Told, Hellstorm. You watch Nick's content, my content, and some other people's content, and that's going to be one of the things I talk to you about, because I have a very exciting piece of information to share with you guys. Somebody that I have admired for a very long time, who a lot of you will recognize, especially if you've seen Europa, or if you've just been aware of Jewish influence, if you've been following Palestine for years. You're going to know who I'm talking about very soon when I tell you one of the reasons why last night was such a blessed evening. But I'll start with the first of 3 reasons why I am so happy. And so 9 o'clock last night, I'm just hanging out. I'm actually getting ready to go to bed, because that's roughly when I go to bed. And I see on Instagram, somebody shared a reel of a teaser from Candace Owens where she says, "We're finally doing it. I'm going to sit down and interview the most evil person in the world. The person I've been told is a white supremacist, a real anti-Semite, hates women, worse than Andrew Tate, worse than Adolf Hitler, the single worst person you could ever give a platform to. I am going to interview them." And so without further ado, here's a couple of clips. Who is it? It's our boy, Nick Fuentes. And this is crazy because myself and Jeremy, J Slay USA, we talked about this a week or 2 ago about how long is it going to take now that Israel is being discussed in the very mainstream conservative circuit and even on the left, with the likes of Tucker Carlson, with the likes of Candace Owens, with Ian Carroll. At some point, they're going to have to recognize that they have only decided to start talking about this within the last 12 months, maybe even less. Whereas there are other people who have been talking about this for the better part of a decade. Some people, multiple decades. And I'm not even one of them. I've been talking about it for 3 to 4 years. And so I know that I stand on the shoulders of many other giants who came before me, many other martyrs who got crucified for prioritizing these particular subjects. Zionism, expanding that into Jewish influence, talking about white genocide and the reality of it, the empirical evidence for it, just looking around, looking at the culture on the college campuses, looking at Hollywood and what they say, looking at the education system, looking at our government in the Biden administration, talking about how white supremacy is the #1 threat to America. There were people who were trying to raise awareness about these subjects for many years. You can look at somebody like Jared Taylor, who has been advocating for white people for 30 years. 30 years. That's older than a lot of you guys watching this video, right? There's people who have come along and tried to do this work, very intelligent people, Ivy League educated, kind, not throwing out racial slurs. These aren't hood-wearing Ku Klux Klan members. These are just intelligent people who can look at what's happening around them. They can look at the empirical evidence, look at the Census Bureau, look at immigration data, look at socioeconomic data, and just speak the truth that there are obviously forces at the highest levels, the government here domestically, but also international NGOs and other forces internationally, that are influencing the demographics in our country and all throughout Europe. And so one of those people reached out to me last night. But first, to wrap up the Nick thing, I've never personally talked to Nick. I've obviously supported his work now for every minute that I've had a platform, and I will continue to do so. And I still think he is the single most important influence in America First, standing up for white people and exposing Jewish influence. I think he has a true generational talent for that. He's not a perfect person. I'm not trying to say that everything he does, I put my rubber stamp on and I would do everything exactly like he has done it. He is just the most effective. He has a great combination of humor, intelligence, discernment, being biblically rooted. So it was a question that I had between Jeremy and myself, J Slay USA, a couple weeks ago, that with the public consciousness reaching this point that it has now, it's inevitable. somebody in the mainstream is going to have to platform Nick because he is the authority, especially as the 2-week Iran-Israel war where we went over there and dropped 6 bunker-busting bombs on their nuclear facilities and all that. Everybody, left, right, Zionist, anti-Zionist, Jew, not Jew, everybody was watching Nick's political coverage of that to the tune of like 60,000 live viewers. And this is a guy who has no institutional backing, 26 years old, self-made, can't even stream on YouTube, can't stream on all of the large platforms, had to build his own website, has been kicked out of Turning Point USA, CPAC. So for the public to kind of understand that, I'd like to know what's really going on, and I know that I can't get that from Fox News. I know that I can't even get that from Tucker Carlson. Can't get it from Candace Owens. They're talking a little bit about it at the highest levels. Israel's committing a genocide. AIPAC is obviously a problem. Dual citizenship all throughout Congress and the White House, that's a problem. You know, they're talking about the high level Israeli influence in our country. Zionist occupied government. But that is still a conversation that is specifically about the foreign nation of Israel and their historical and present influence on our country. Nick is intelligent and courageous enough to take that topic and expand it further and say it's not just Israel. What does that have to do with Bob Iger running the Disney empire, right? What does that have to do with Brian Roberts running the Comcast, NBC, Universal empire? What does that have to do with Sumner Redstone running the CBS Viacom empire? What does that have to do with the 2 Jews who created Google, Sam Altman of AI, Susan Wojcicki running YouTube, the Anti-Defamation League? All these people are Jewish. None of them live in Israel, right? They're not Israeli government employees. They obviously care a lot about Israel, but they advocate for Jewish concerns, Jewish interest here domestically. They're the ones lobbying the White House saying, I'm not talking about the foreign nation of Israel as one matter of Jewish priorities. I'm saying here on domestic soil, you should not be able to protest against what Israel is doing. You should not be able to publicly condemn the Jewish religion. You should not be able to talk about how many Jews are at the highest positions in our different civil institutions. You should not be able to have an opinion about Jewish religion, Jewish culture, the Jewish nation. You should not be able to speak about those things publicly. Those are things that people who, yes, they do care about Israel, but they care just as much about Jewish safety here in America. They have been the ones suppressing and going after anybody who talks about Jewish influence writ large. And so for Nick specifically to be invited to talk on one of the largest conservative platforms, that's different than Dave Smith, right? That's different than Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, who are trying to keep the conversation gate-kept around the foreign nation of Israel. Nick knows very well that this is not a foreign nation influencing our government problem. This is a Jews problem. And so for him to finally get, not necessarily an endorsement, but at least an invitation to elaborate on how far-reaching this problem is, that is a paradigm shift. This is a new era. Now, the interview hasn't come out yet. I've only seen a couple clips of it. Nobody has seen it yet. It drops tomorrow. But just based on those clips, I'm pretty confident that Nick elaborates that this is not just Israel. It's not just Bibi Netanyahu. It's not just the Likud party, right? So the fact that this conversation is now going to start expanding in the mainstream beyond Israel, the foreign nation, that is a whole new chapter in the public discourse of group interests in America. There's Christians, there's Jews, there's Europeans, there's blacks, there's Arabs, there's Hispanics, there's now Indians. All of these people have distinct group interests. The people who have probably the most influence in the country are Jews, and so we need to dissect what their group interests are and have a conversation about whether or not they are in alignment with how we feel America should prioritize itself. What are our values? Do they align with Jewish values? Because they are the ones sculpting the information diet, whether it's the media, whether it's the Google search results, whether it's Wikipedia, whether it's the AI engines, whether it's the video platforms. I talked about all this in the last vlog. I gave all the receipts about the individual owners or the founders of all of these media institutions, both new media and legacy media. Their extreme disproportionate representation in the financial markets, the hedge fund managers, their extreme disproportionate representation at the highest levels of academia, and obviously filling out the government. I'm very excited to see where Nick takes that conversation, expanding on Israel to Jewish influence as a larger problem with Candace Owens. Something else, though, that I think less people have noted just from the little trailer that Candace dropped is at the end of the trailer, he starts talking a little bit about the racial conversation. You know, Candace says, and to her credit, I'm glad she brought it up, I heard that you're against interracial marriage, which I'm sure is highly uncomfortable given the fact that she's married to a white guy. So kudos to her for, you know, saying it like it is to somebody who clearly disagrees with you to your face. That's an important thing. We should all have the intelligence to talk through, the humility to talk through what we feel is important to us, but we understand is not as important to the person you're in the room with. Talk through our disagreements, understand the rationale for each person's side, find some kind of negotiated compromise, come to a mutual understanding. Typically, a rational understanding that says, I can see how you feel the way that you do, and I can understand that it has nothing to do with hatred of the other. And this is true across all of the lines, religious lines, sexual affiliation, gay, straight, trans, all that stuff, racial lines in particular. The fact that most straight people condemn homosexuality, especially straight Christians, that doesn't mean you hate homosexuals. All Christians should be condemning every other religion and trying to encourage them to pursue Jesus Christ. That doesn't mean you hate Muslims or Jews, pagans, Hindus, Buddhists, anybody else. And whites have a group interest, just like blacks have a group interest, just like Jews very clearly have a group interest, none of which should mean that you hate the other. That shouldn't be inferred or implied. And so I really want to see Nick take on the racial conversation. I'm almost more excited about that than seeing him expand on the Jewish problem, because the Jewish problem is already getting so much coverage. What's not getting coverage is white identity. We need to come to a respectful agreement that America can be reconstructed in a way where you have the people who love diversity. Okay, great. Go enjoy diversity. But you shouldn't impose diversity on people who don't want it, because that creates unnecessary conflict. We should allow for partitions of America to be homogenous. We should allow for white people to have white cities, entire white states, white counties, whatever it may be. That should be a legally protected structure. And so I'm curious to see what Nick has to say when she challenges him on interracial marriage, the situation with whites in America. I really am, because as I said, that's the one that's not getting the public stamp of approval yet. There's a lot of whites, Charlie Kirk, Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson, saying, you know, we got to do something about immigration. There's too much of the third world coming in here. But they're not saying explicitly, America's identity is a historically European nation. We were 90% white for the first 350 years of our existence. It needs to stay majority white. Its leadership class should be, at a minimum, majority white, preferably exclusively white. And so we can do all of these things, but it's going to require a public, rational conversation with intelligent people, people who aren't motivated by hatred, people who are genuinely trying to reduce conflict. So I really am interested in seeing that component of the interview. So, okay, I started this vlog out saying I was just so blessed last night on 3 different subjects. Number 1 was, man, I have invested years into trying to get these messages out, trying to boost up Nick, trying to boost up anybody courageous enough to talk about these things. And so to finally have a large platform like Candace Owens, who in my opinion would be considered very, very mainstream, finally Nick getting a chance to go on that kind of exposure platform and just say what he feels about white people and obviously the Jewish issue. That is huge for America First. It's huge for the public discourse. Number two, I was getting ready to go to bed after hearing the great news about the Nick and Candace interview, and a follower who I've been in contact with for quite a while now sent me a message saying, hey man, I'd like to support the platform, but honestly, I just don't need any more clothes or supplements or anything like that, but I would like to help the platform. Do you have a donation link or anything? And so I sent him my PayPal, and I just kind of expected him to kick me 10 or 20 bucks or something like that. And I go and check it, and he sent a very sizable donation, a very generous donation that blew me away. And I'm very, very appreciative to see people out there who respect the amount of work that has gone into this and are willing to actually put their money where their mouth is. And even though they can't go and do the public advocacy work themselves, maybe they can't afford to risk their career, their reputation, their family life, and so on. I get it. I've talked about this for years in my vlogs. Not everybody is in a position to go and light their life on fire, put their life savings at risk, their home, and all those other things. I get it. I don't expect everybody to go and do the work to the same degree that people like me and Nick and other people are doing. But I do expect, if you are mutually invested in the future of America, you're a white person and you don't want to become the minority in this country, you're not happy with America becoming a minority Christian country, you're not happy with the level of Jewish influence in this country, you're not happy living in the gynocracy, then you got to somehow meaningfully support the people who are out there trying to do something about that. And that does go beyond pushing the like button and the share button. So to see somebody really step in and help that cause, I was really, really appreciative of that. And so I was like, man, I didn't need another blessing tonight. I was happy with just the success of our mission growing. But then for somebody to come in and help me out with investing in the platform, not like thousands and thousands of dollars or anything like that, but still, this whole company has not made a dollar yet. It's still negative, even after this donation. But the 4 years of running this platform, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars invested, it's not profitable yet. And I don't know if it ever will be. I hope it will be. This is why we have all these different monetization efforts, the streaming ad revenue on YouTube, the Substack membership, the merch store that just launched a couple of weeks ago. These are all different avenues of monetizing the platform so we can actually create some marketing budget so we can reinvest and multiply exponentially the impact. And so I got a nice little gift to help with that cause. And so I'm really, really appreciative of him. And I'm also appreciative of everybody who has got something from the merch store, my monthly subscribers on Substack. You guys are helping, and I really do mean that. And even if all you can do is just leave a comment, subscribe, share the content, remix it, post it in your stories, that still means a lot to me as well. Those contributions are still very meaningful. So just wanted to say I am feeling like a blessed guy with all of the various types of support this platform is getting.
Beholden to Truth.
And so on that note of, even if the smallest thing you can do is just supporting the platform by engaging with the algorithm, that really does matter, because here's the third thing that I was extremely feeling blessed about last night. Because this account has grown so much, especially on Instagram, 70,000 followers. Naturally, people start looking at the platform with a bit more credibility, and that attracts people with equally sized platforms, people who have been involved in this movement for even longer than I have. And so I got a DM last night from none other than the legend himself. Are you guys ready? Hopefully you recognize this name. Ken O'Keefe. Yes, Ken O'Keefe. If you've seen Europa: The Last Battle, the very first scene of the 12-hour documentary, like as soon as it starts, the first face you see is Ken O'Keefe. So if you didn't recognize the name, but you've seen the documentary, the guy with the face tattoos, the former Marine, that's Ken O'Keefe. And he has been advocating for exposing Jewish influence, advocating about white genocide, advocating for the Palestinians for decades, longer than Nick Fuentes. And so he reached out to me last night, giving me a personal compliment, saying he appreciates the work I've done and that he wants to lend his support to the platform. How exciting is that? And so we talked about doing an interview. We're going to try to line that up very soon. So stay tuned. We have to figure out when the right time is, but it'll likely be very, very soon. And actually, I planned on doing an interview with him this weekend. We agreed to a time and to do an interview. But what surprised me even more, after he sent me a DM saying, hey, I appreciate the work. I want to do an interview for you to help your platform grow. I'm about to go to bed after that. So I'm excited about the Nick interview. I'm feeling grateful about the big donation. Ken O'Keefe just reached out to me saying he appreciates my work and he wants to do an interview. I'm like, okay, God, thank you. Like, I don't know why you did all this in 24 hours, but I was ready to go to bed, elated, just overwhelmed with appreciation that all of this work is paying off. And then Ken calls me directly. He calls me to do a video chat. And so when Ken O'Keefe calls, you answer the phone. And so I got up and we ended up talking for 3.5 hours, you guys. 3.5 hours. I talked to him until almost 3 o'clock in the morning last night, my time. He lives in Malaysia, which has a 13-hour time difference. But it was that important. This is a work night for me, by the way. It's like a Wednesday night. And here I am talking to Ken O'Keefe, living overseas until 3 o'clock in the morning, because I knew how important it was to set up a future of success with some mutual collaboration with him. And we just got to know each other as guys, just two guys talking, How did you even get red pilled? He told me a lot of his life story. We talked about some potential business collaboration. He talked about some of the ideas he has for creating a journalism outlet, just a genuinely founded in truth, trying to hold the powers that be accountable. This is a man who has been to Gaza not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, 5 times. This is a man who has Palestinian family members. This is a man who served in the military. This is a man who renounced his American passport, burned it. This is a man who the ADL considers a Hamas agent. So I do have to be careful with how we work together as business partners. I can't control how it gets spun. Oh, you're interviewing, you're platforming, you're working in a business alignment with Ken O'Keefe, who is probably on the domestic Department of Homeland Security's domestic terrorist watch list for being Hamas adjacent or whatever. I can't control how it gets spun any more than I can control how the ADL would call me a white supremacist neo-Nazi. But, there's some strategy that's going to be involved with the work that we want to collaborate on. He has some very, very grand ideas, and he's trying to find some institutional backing to actually finance these ideas to where we can put a significant budget towards creating a journalistic outlet with very well-known, prominent figures who I won't say yet, but people you would recognize, flying them in, giving them a hotel to stay in, interviewing them, creating documentaries, setting up a podcast, a studio, so on and so forth. And this is a transnational effort. You have an American headquarters. You'll have a headquarters where he is. And this is a guy who's been on Russia Today, Al Jazeera, CNN. He is one of the GOATs when it comes to white genocide, Jewish influence, Zionist-occupied government. There's not really any other people who are as credible with the report card that he has. It's a pretty humbling thing to be approached by him and say, hey, I'd like to work with you. I'd like to set up a business with you where we can strategize how to multiply our efforts. So I can't even describe how I feel, you guys. I really am excited about the future, a little anxious about the inevitable consequences of working with such a controversial figure, but that's irrelevant. I gave all that stuff up to Christ 4 years ago when I put my toe in these waters and said, so be it. Whatever happens, happens. This is just what's required. Until the men of this country are willing to self-sacrifice and do whatever it takes, then we're not going to make any progress, okay? It is what it is. There's going to be martyrs. Reputations are going to be destroyed. Opportunities are going to be lost. Personal lives are going to be destroyed. Family relationships, friendships, romantic opportunities, careers will be lost. This is part of the collateral damage of standing on truth. And so I'm not trying to look too far ahead. I'm just simply mentally preparing myself for the probable pain that will come with such a high level collaboration of somebody who has very publicly condemned the United States government, and with every right to do so. It's not like he's saying anything that I haven't said, that Nick hasn't said, that many other people who know about Jewish influence have said. So we'll see where it goes. I am extremely excited about that, though. We'll be having a working session this weekend, private. You know, it's not going to be a live stream where we talk about our strategy, but we're going to, for the first time, sit down and think about how would such a business be structured? How can we secure the financial backing for this? What kind of projects would we want to take on? So that is just super duper exciting stuff. And I am just personally very fulfilled that you guys helped build this platform to a point where it showed up on the radar to such a heavy hitter as Ken. And what I really pray for also is that this eventually gets on Nick's radar and we can start, it's essentially like building a transformer. You have these huge blocks of well-known figures who have 5, 10, 20, 30 years of work behind them, and they have their own mutual following. You show up on Jared Taylor's radar, who's been advocating for white advocacy for 30 years. You show up on Nick's radar, he's got the Groypers. You show up on Ken's radar, who has an international level of support. Literally everywhere, all over the world, Ken is recognized. And if you can, not necessarily with the expectation that you're going to get all of these blocks to perfectly agree with their ideologies, their desired outcomes, but at least in a alignment on the single highest priority and how we can help each other, platform each other, come to some kind of agreement about prioritization. What is the single most important thing that we're doing and why? How can we succeed with that mission? So I have a lot of work to do, you guys. I really do. I'm excited about it. Some people use the word workaholic, and I don't feel that way about myself. I mean, I have a corporate 40-hour-a-week job, and then I do just this, and then I do this job 30 to 40 hours a week. So I probably do work 80 hours a week, and then I have the gym 5 to 7 hours a week. So some people would call that a workaholic, but this is how I find my fulfillment. You know, I'm actually a happy guy when I am working. I don't sit around while I'm working like, I wish this was already over with so I could go watch some movies, so I could go bowling, so I can go to that kind of happy hour and have a drink at the bar and chat with Susie or whatever, whoever the divorced mom is at the bar, or the stupid slut with her tits out. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out on all these other parts of the world because I am preoccupied working on building this platform, securing resources for my future family. That's important shit. That's the most important shit. All of those other activities, sorry, just don't have the time. We just don't. So huge things to come. Huge things to come. I am so freaking excited. Hopefully you guys are too. I don't know what it's going to look like and how long it's going to take, but I think in the very near future, you guys are going to see an exclusive interview. Beholden To Truth, Ken O'Keefe collaboration. That's one I've been wanting for quite a while. Ever since I saw your open, I was like, who is this guy who has face tattoos, but he's a devout Christian. He's talking about Jewish influence. He's talking about white genocide. This guy, like, who is he? And now to find myself on a video call with him for 3.5 hours just talking about life. We're talking about women. We're talking about the history of America, our mutual Christian faith, the respect for the Muslim world, not necessarily in agreement from a faith perspective, obviously, but we understand their grievances. We understand why we have this conflict. And we definitely understand how we are being used, we being America, are being used by the Jews for their own interests to our own detriment. And so it was not a hard time to have a conversation for 3+ hours, and we probably could have kept going, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, dude, I have to wake up in 2 hours. Okay, I need to go to bed. So let's pick this conversation up this weekend, and we're going to talk business, start developing a mission statement, think about all the various things that you have to think about when standing up a business. So more to come on that. Please pray over it. I've often asked for prayers specifically for the protection and providence of Christ's kingdom here on earth, our modern day saints, prophets, soldiers in Christ's army who need that protection and providence to do God's work. We have to find ourselves connected somehow through serendipity, through intentional effort, through God's will, however it may be. That transformer that I mentioned earlier, these different blocks of people who have about an 80% overlap. They may not agree about the white nationalist part. They may not agree about the Middle East with mutual sympathy for them, but we can all understand America first means America must be sovereign. We can't have a foreign nation influencing with more influence than our own domestic, democratically elected Republican representatives of our government. We can't have their interests outweighing our own. So, America first is inevitable. The Avengers are assembling, you guys. Just give us some time. It's going to take a while. We need God's protection and providence. We need you guys' support, sharing the content, contributing if you can economically so that we can reinvest, multiply the message. What a blessed evening, though. What an absolute blessing, man. I was so ridiculously happy last night. And I still am. And the best is yet to come. There's going to be some pain to come, but the best is yet to come. So, with that said, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, you guys. Please do support the platform. I promise you, the content that you guys are going to be able to get from this is only going to get better and better. With a connection like Ken O'Keefe, this guy is connected to people like E. Michael Jones, many other people who have been talking about the Jews forever and crucified for doing so. Exclusive interviews, very high quality productions, rare opportunities. He talked about some stuff coming later this year in terms of conferences that I may be able to go to. And with his stamp of approval, just walking in with Ken O'Keefe already grants you a certain degree of clout where people will just bring you right into the fold, endorse your platform, connect you, help you find investors, things like that. So we just got to keep putting one brick down day over day. I've talked about that in vlogs countless times. Every day you're just waking up, and if it's as small as posting a new reel, it's as small as recording a new vlog, it's as small as doing some edits on the website, it's as small as engaging with you guys in my DMs, responding to comments on YouTube videos. All of those are one little bitty brick at a time. And over time, the Instagram platform has 2,600 posts. The YouTube platform has 250, 300 hours of content. The following count is reaching 70,000. God willing, we'll reach 6 digits in the next couple of months, hopefully. We reach more than 12 million views per month on Instagram. One little brick at a time. Beautiful thing to see coming together, isn't it? So that's going to wrap it up, you guys. I got to get this pre-workout in me, get in the gym, and do what must be done for the day. So until next time, get yourself a Substack subscription if you can. It's modest way of supporting the platform. I think it's $12 a month or less than that if you get an annual subscription, or if you'd rather get some tangible reward for your support. Alternatively, if you wanted to get yourself something more tangible, some kind of swag for your support, get yourself one of these anti-zog occupation tank tops, a t-shirt, a hoodie, some joggers, some flip-flops, a water bottle, some nutritional supplements, whatever you want from the merch store. That note, by the way, I was sitting out in the pool the other day, and it is ridiculously hot in Alabama. I was like, I got to do some kind of sale just related to how freaking hot it is. So I decided all the tank tops on the website, buy one, get one 50% off. And if you spend over $100, then you get a free pair of anti-zog flip-flops, which I gotta say are pretty cool looking. You're hanging out at the pool, you got some anti-zog flip-flops, there's an anti-zog set of swim trunks, there's the tank tops, there's t-shirts, sleeveless shirts. And if you care more about the Save Europa side of this whole battle, then you can get that merch line. Either way, it all supports the platform. You'll look great. You'll be waking people up. It's synergy. It's a beautiful synergy. That's kind of what I've been going for, synergy. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Until next time, I love you guys. Watch the Nick and Candace interview when it drops tomorrow, because I am sure we're going to be talking about it in ensuing vlogs, so you want to stay apprised. Talk to you guys again soon. Love you, and Christ is King.